What's up, everybody? Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming here, and I only make this video because I grew up and loved this series, this card game, everything about it I fell in love with. So this video is an act of harsh love. What do you mean by that? Well, I'm going to boldly say it. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. Okay? And some of you are saying, heresy, how can this be? John, how dare you? Blah, 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 blah. No, for a fact, modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks. And let me tell you why. The power creep, the amount of unrealistic strategies that are now developed, and the overcomplexity of a once simple game. Let me explain. Why is a card game like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon able to innovate their card game without having to destroy what made their series and card game great to begin with? Everything past original Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! GX fucking blows. Yes, 5D's blows. Zexal blows. These fucking Pendulum and Link things blow. And don't get me wrong, there is some good ideas, but very rarely do these ideas work. I've played a couple of Link cards, and I played a couple of these XYZ cards. Only some of them actually fit very well with playing with the GOAT format, because here's the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! They never truly gave the original the support that it needed to be able to compete nowadays. Because in Magic the Gathering and in Pokemon, you could play with cards from fucking Genki cards from the GOAT formats of those and actually be able to compete with somebody. Yu-Gi-Oh's got to the point where it's like, what if somebody took a break for 10 to 20 years and they want to come back and they play with the GOAT format, which is the superior and best format of the game? What kind of game locks you from playing more than Yu-Gi-Oh? The modern strategies and the modern archetypes, that's what ruined Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the archetypes. The creativity was stripped away. Because back then in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, even though GX brought in archetypes, those archetypes could still be competed with the OG format. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Could, the moment the duel starts, you as a normal player lay one card, do a simple strategy. Lay a card face down or attack position, lay down maybe a trap or a spell. Then the player that you're fighting can easily take a 15 to 20 minute turn, damn near summoning 5 to 6 cards on the field, and could end the duel within 2 turns and lock you out of your own deck from playing. What kind of shitty format is that to basically prevent your opponent from being able to Yu-Gi-Oh? The thing that made Yu-Gi-Oh! Great was the tension and not being able to anticipate what your opponent's going to do. Now in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You can anticipate everything your opponent's going to do by the type of archetype they use. You can anticipate your opponent's going to be like, okay, I'm going to lay this card down, 7 pendulums in one go, access my whole deck, summon Exodia, the duel's over in just 2 turns. What happened to the tension? What happened to being able to be like, okay, what's my opponent going to do? Or the other player's like, yo, what is my opponent going to do? Using different spells and traps, different monsters, in synchronization, no pun intended, because I think synchro summoning is also fucking stupid and sucks with their broken monsters. The problem is, the power creep in the game has broken the game. Okay? I think the thing Yu-Gi-Oh! Always needed, you needed a cap. It needed a power cap. And the problem is Yu-Gi-Oh! Konami never gave it a power cap. Okay? Konami made the worst decision letting power creep dominate their game. Hell, you could probably play, and I know a lot of people didn't play it, I was one of the very few so I could speak on it. Played the actual Dungeon Dice, the board game with all the pieces. Yes, I had every single piece and thing that went to it, so I had everything for it. Hell, I would play that with friends of mine. And at least in that format, it was fair. Playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You don't know whether you have a chance in hell or not to be able to even compete with your opponent. Okay, because to be honest, my favorite deck type, yes, I don't call them archetypes, it's my deck of choice that I use, is Gravekeepers. They're simple, but yet they're very effective. Okay? Yes, my opponent can tell what I'm doing, but that depends if they have a deck that can either counter me or they could work their way through with the deck they have. And that's what made Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! You don't know your opponent, and your opponent doesn't know you. But now, with all these archetypes, you know the kind of mess you're going to get into. You know the kind of deck your opponent is going to use. And it's almost, in your head, you're just going to be like, look, how long before this turns over? I'm probably going to have 2 turns. He's going to summon something outrageous and stop me from being able to play the game. Okay? And I doubt it's ever going to get any better. The thing Yu-Gi-Oh! If I was in charge of Capcom, or not Capcom, my bad, Konami, if I was in charge of them, I would literally have Yu-Gi-Oh! Divided into eras of play. And I would be like, look, what we have now, we're going to cap all the cards we currently have. Because certain, even spells and trap cards that should be able to destroy the monster, whether the monster says so or not, it's like monsters have too much protection now to stop them from being destroyed. There's too many different ways to also axe your opponent's monsters before they even get the chance. See, me, I like to give my opponent a chance. That's how I was trained in the art of Yu-Gi-Oh! By my cousin and his friends. They were like, we want to make the game fair. We want to give each other a chance to overtake one another. Not the moment the game starts, hey, let's have a friendly game, to where you have chosen death after your first turn. Is that why you people play modern Yu-Gi-Oh? Just to end the game in 2 to 3 turns? I mean, what happened to feeling the suspense of 25 to 30 turns potentially? Hell, the longest game of Yu-Gi-Oh that I had with Kyo, it was a stream I think last year, or I don't know which Yu-Gi-Oh stream we did. We went for 75 turns. Why? Because we had cards that restored our graveyard back to our deck. So we were able to keep going. We were able to keep to see who was going to overtake the other. And that's what made Yu-Gi-Oh feel like Yu-Gi-Oh. The anticipation, the unexpected nature of being able to be like, okay, my opponent did this, so I'm going to do this. And your opponent's like, you did this, I'm going to do this. Nothing is going to be better than the GOAT format. Because at least back then, there was a level of fairness. And people are going to say, well, what about that? Like, people who say, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh had issues back then, you're using the anime's rules. And most early Yu-Gi-Oh players would use the anime rules, not actual card game rules. By the time they got to Battle City, that's when rules were actually in effect. And I'm not talking about Duelist Kingdom, because I will admit there was some bullshit. But once you got to Battle City, Awakening of the Dragons, you know, all that stuff, everything was set in stone of how the game should work and be played. And all the way up into Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Even though GX ain't the best, the cards they introduced felt like they fit alongside the original GOAT format. But playing stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh! On motorcycles, like 5Ds, all the 5Ds, synchros, pendulums, XYZs, even though I admit I use some XYZs and links, but I use the ones that are fair and don't basically give my opponent a heart attack and stress to not want to duel me ever again. That's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is missing. Yu-Gi-Oh! Lost its soul. In order for the card game to continue to succeed, Konami had to sacrifice the heart and soul of the game. And I doubt in the future that it's going to get any better. This game, this card game, needs a cap. It needs to be able to make older cards that people prefer to play with compete with the newer cards. Therefore, it keeps a level of equality and fairness among the community. Because right now, you could tell the Yu-Gi-Oh community is split between people who just like the instant win stuff and feel that that's the dominant way to play and forgot how it truly was to play. And I was, around the time of the original Yu-Gi-Oh. I grew up with the original Yu-Gi-Oh. And that was a much simpler time. But the thing about it is, there was nothing wrong with simplicity. There was nothing wrong with being able to just say, I'm going to make a deck of 40 to 45 random cards, and my opponent makes a deck of random to 40 to 45 cards, and we just see who's the better, may the better man win. I don't know why that concept was lost to people or lost to the game itself, but the entire Yu-Gi-Oh series has suffered from it. I mean, the newer animes, they blow. They fucking suck. Nothing beats the GOAT format. And if they could just be able to have the old format compete with the new format, then maybe Yu-Gi-Oh could be what it once was. But for right now, Yu-Gi-Oh is barely on life support because of what it has to do, which is the ridiculous power creep and the unrealistic way people use their cards. I mean, a card with 6 effects could just ruin the whole duel. Anyway, this is it for John Kill 3D Gaming. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow my Twitch. See you later.